Hi, I'm Michael Smith. At Berkeley College, we're committed to educating the public about the importance of higher education and its impact on our communities. That's why we're proud to support the important educational programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Partners for Health Foundation, partnering to make our communities healthier, better places to live. Berkeley College, Josh S. Weston, Meridian Health, PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. Health Republic Insurance of New Jersey. And by Cohn Resnick, Accounting, Tax, and Advisory, where forward thinking creates results. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey. And by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this.
You
got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No. People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Welcome to a very special edition of One-on-One. It has been a while since I've had this friend on the show, Benilde Little, who is the author of a terrific book. It's called Welcome to My Breakdown, a memoir. Your first book, Good Hair, did pretty well, huh? And some of the other books. Acting Out, Itch. Who does she think she is? Former reporter with People, former senior editor at Essence Magazine, my neighbor in town, a good town, Montclair. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
Good to have you. We also come from the same little town, Newark, New Jersey, Brick City. You know, this book, it's funny. I would like to say I've read it cover to cover, but it's not true. I've jumped around. Mm-hmm. I'm bad that way.
Did you read the Newark stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I went to the Newark stuff first.
I figured you did.
Bad.
I figured you did.
I looked at Newark. Anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to read, but it's too cheesy to do that, the cover and how it describes you. But it talks about you having a perfect life. You know, again, the people who promote the book describe it a certain way. But for those who don't know you, by the way, check out Benilde Little, describe her background. Best-selling author. Good Hair did so well, and I remember having you on early on, and, earlier on in my career. One of the most compelling, interesting interviews. It's so rare that a best-selling author, a first-time author, does so well. 2 beautiful children, a boy and a girl. Your terrific husband. Great career, all going on. I don't want to take any words away from you. I'll stop talking now. Things started changing for you. Was it pretty much around your mom's illness and then ultimately her passing?
Yeah.
What happened?
That's what happened. Well, you know, when I look back, it was really a perfect storm. So it was my mom getting sick and eventually dying, me approaching middle age. Still have a hard time saying it. Well, I was trying to say menopause and middle age, but you know, at least half the people watching this will know what that means. And then my career stalling on purpose, me taking a break to spend time with my son. We had au pairs and stuff, and he was getting older, 4 or 5, and I just wanted to take a break to, you know, kind of put my stamp on him. And that break turned into 1 year, turned into 2, and then it was 5. And then it was like, what happened? You know, it was like I had turned into this suburban mom. Not that there's anything wrong with being a suburban mom.
I used to see you going to yoga class.
I was living for exercise. I was right. So I was, you know, I was kind of a stereotype. I was like, you know, that woman who was at Starbucks every day after gym class, yoga, you know, and all those things are great. And it was a good time until it wasn't, because I'm a writer. So I
At the core.
wasn't, that's right. So that I wasn't doing what I am supposed to be doing. And that's what I mean. I don't mean that there's anything wrong with
But you're a
doing that
writer.
full time, but
You
I'm
were
a
meant to
writer.
write.
That's right. And so I just got backed up. And I didn't understand it at the time. I didn't understand what was going on because my mom was so sick. So I just figured all of it was because of that. You know, and you're just, you know, I was the main person in charge, you know, even though my dad was still around and, you know, and my brothers don't live here, but, you know, I was the one. I was her person. So whenever she got sick and in and out of the hospital, I was there. And then when it got really clear years later that she wasn't, that this was it, and she didn't want to be in the hospital anymore, I moved her into my house. So, so it was a lot. You know, it's a lot to take care of somebody. You know, to see somebody you love so much die.
You know, the book. You talk about clinical depression, your depression. You talk about, oh my God, the book is so candid. You talked about stuff I didn't even think you were remotely talked about. You talk about that depression. You also talked about how you didn't even realize the impact your mom's passing would have on you and has continued to have on you. You talked about how while you're married to Cliff, a great guy, you started to question your marriage. You talked about earlier dating. Yeah, why are you laughing?
Because I wondered how long it was going to take you to get to that.
What was up with that? You dating a married man. You talked about a whole range of being involved in the Nation of Islam for a period of time. You talked about race. You talked about the fact that in the black culture, to a large extent, issues of depression, mental health, we're not therapists. You kidding me? You talk about your relationship with your therapist. Why?
Because it was part of not just my journey, but I know that I'm not alone. I know that this story is the story of so many women, regardless of race, of class, of ethnicity, of geography.
How do you know that?
Well, first of all, since the book has come out, the amazing, you know, responses I get, not just from when I'm showing up at a signing, but just now with social media, I just got something 2 nights ago from a woman from Utah. She is not a black woman. She is not my age. She read the book, and her father recently died. It provided immense solace for her. So we start going back, writing back and forth on Instagram, and she said, and I used to live in Rutherford. And she said, I said, I'm just curious, how did you find the book? And she'd get some book newsletter or whatever. But the point is, that's part of it. But I kind of knew in my gut that it would. Because when you're honest, when you reveal, because we're human beings and our journeys might look different, but being a human being, it's all the same in terms of, you know, dealing with these blows that happen to us, you know, these grief and depression. And, you know, a lot of people, and what I talk about in the book in terms of black people, and not just black people, but ethnic people, really aren't trying to talk about depression and therapy. You know, it's like, give it to God, let's pray it away, let's do anything except that. And I know that that needs to be addressed because people are committing suicide. The rate of suicide among black people, black men, is on the rise. So, and there was a time when black people didn't commit suicide. I don't know if you know that. But, you know, so people are in pain.
Sorry for interrupting. Suffering unnecessarily?
Well, I think so, when you can get help. Absolutely.
So I want to understand this because I don't care who you are, but when you read, at least for me, I'm projecting to some extent, but I'm also thinking about you. I've got a lot of things going on. But I'm thinking to myself, Italian-American culture got its own set of weird, complex stuff, right? My family would have they would disown me for less than this.
Right.
But they're like, your family, talking about what you have talked about, because you've got this outpouring from so many people, because you're helping so many. Those closest to you in your family, your blood, said what?
Well, you know, my mother is gone, but if my mother were here, she was my biggest supporter. She's like, go, tell it.
Yes?
Yes, my mother was extremely progressive. She was extremely progressive. So
Clara?
Clara, you know, Clara was Clara was a character, and she was her own person. She didn't support Ken Gibson, for instance.
But we're getting way too much.
I know, that's like...
Okay, 1970, City of Newark, Ken Gibson ultimately runs and becomes the first black mayor on the eastern, of a city on the eastern seaboard, runs against an Italian-American, corrupt, mobbed up guy who wound up going to jail for being mobbed up. And came from the neighborhood that I was born and raised in. Your mom, looking at pictures right now, did not support the man who became the first black mayor. So what does that say to you?
That she was a free thinker.
Yeah, she didn't go along.
And she was involved in city politics. She knew your dad. Your dad knew her. They were always trying to get her to run for it. She was like, no, I want to be on the outside, making sure you guys do what you're supposed to do. I don't want to be inside. She mentored Sharp.
Sharp James
sent a letter from jail and to be read at her funeral. I mean, she mentored him when he was a ward leader. Okay, so she was very involved.
She was so strong, so independent, but she taught you what about what you could and should be?
That I could be anything. And I don't mean that in that corny, you could be president. Because that wasn't even on the table. That wasn't anything that I was interested in, even if even a possibility. She was very much into that you have to listen to this. Don't listen to what other people are saying. When I quit my very good magazine job, my career, because as you know, in media, you don't, if you step out of your line, you lose your place.
Tell everyone what magazine we're talking about.
I was at Essence. I was a senior editor. I had a great job. I traveled all over the world. I covered out, you name it, person, I met him, whatever. And, and it was great for a while, but it wasn't my song. I really wanted to write. And I remember my mother she had been rushed to the emergency room. This was like one of the first times. And we were at St. Mary's in Hoboken. Right. And sitting there with her, and I said, Mom, I'm gonna quit my job. I want to write. Every single person I told that to laughed at me. My mother was the only one who didn't. So I got from her this immense sense of it was good to be an individual, that it was important to think for yourself.
When you lost her, and she passed in your home, your husband kept telling you, because he had lost his dad 2 months earlier. He kept telling you, time will heal. What was happening?
It wasn't. It wasn't healing. A month, 2 months, 6 months, 8 months, and I wasn't getting. As a matter of fact, I was getting worse.
Define getting worse.
I couldn't get out of bed. I would take my kids to school. I would walk my dog, and then I'd go back and get in the bed, and I would stay there until they came home from school.
Benilde Little.
Yeah.
This.
I just.
Talented writer. Type A, you're in bed.
I'm way more like B+.
Whatever. You're in bed.
Yeah.
Do you know intellectually something's seriously wrong?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you say, I need to get help?
Oh, yeah. I kept saying it to Cliff, and I was getting some help, but it wasn't enough.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying, I think I need to go away. I think I need to be put somewhere, and...
You did say that?
I said that, yeah. And he kept saying, it'll be okay. It'll just be okay. And, he would come home from work and see me in the bed, and he would just talk to me like I was sitting at the table. I mean, he wouldn't be like, why are you, what are you doing? Get up. He would just tell me what happened at work and tell me who sent a card. And, and maybe that helped. He just kept trying to act normal and be normal. And finally, I talked about the trip that he surprised me with, this trip to Italy, and it was going to be a year from that point. And then when it came time to go, and I wanted to go to Tuscany for like 20 years, and I didn't want to go, and that's when I went on the medication, because I knew if that couldn't just get me out of myself, I needed some serious intervention.
Before we go to this break, by the way, would you mind staying with us the whole time?
I'll stay with you as long as you like.
Okay. When someone says, well, you do a quote for your kids, get better for your kids, when you're talking clinical depression, it doesn't work like that, does it?
No. And I pushed as much as I could so I would, go in if I needed to meet with a teacher, I would push through, but it would just be a fog. I would walk out and it was like, okay, what do I have to do? What are we supposed to do? And it's funny because people have asked me like how it impacted my kids, and I was like, I've said in the past, oh, it didn't, but now that I have had a chance to look back on it, I think it did. I think I missed some steps, certainly with Ford. Baldwin was, it was sort of the early part of applying to college, and that's very intense. So that kind of helped. My daughter is a junior in college now.
Right.
She's 21.
And your son is?
14.
Right.
So he just entered high school.
Got it.
So I'm in the 9th grade.
Right.
So looking at colleges with my daughter, that really helped too. It was kind of, we would go on the road and stuff like that. So that was a nice distraction. And it was a way of visiting with my mom, because even though I didn't do, I went away to college, but I didn't do, back then we didn't do school tours. Did you see your school before you went? You just like showed up with your stuff, right? But anyway, so that was a nice thing. And I know that my mother would have loved all of that. She would have loved where Baldwin ended up and all that. So that was sort of a nice.
You're thinking about her constantly?
Yeah, I still do. I mean, not every day, but a lot.
Yeah. Why don't we do the quick break, but a public television break, which, we're right back. I don't even know what the other side means. It's a ridiculous expression, but I want you to talk a little bit when we come back, Benilde, about some of the messages you want to share with people about how to get help for themselves, because that is why you wrote this book, other than for yourself. You did clearly write it for others. Okay, can we do that?
Yeah.
All right. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Benilde Little.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Welcome back. We're talking with Benilde Little, author of Welcome to My Breakdown. Go ahead. Say what you wanted to say.
Oh, I was going to ask you about your dad.
Don't ask me about my dad, because then I'll break down. That's not fair. You can't do that.
Yeah, well,
you can't do that. When your mom's gone, you talk about in the book your anchor, the person who was there for you, even though you had your husband, your kids.
Right.
Ultimately, I don't even know what ultimately means, because you're still. But by the way, where would you say you are now?
Well, it's been 6 years, almost 7. March will be 7. Wow. And her birthday is Thursday. So all of those are still. She would have been 91. So it's still. But I'm pretty good. I mean, I don't break down very often. I'm good.
It's because it's funny, you asked me about my dad, and everyone watching has people that are close to them that are dealing with it or whatever. You said when it comes to grief, give into it. I'm also asking, can you prepare for? Because we prepare for, because I'm sitting there going, my dad's at a certain point, and I want him to do what he can do for as long as he can do it. But I go, and my mom, do you prepare? No? That's a stupid idea.
Yeah. People ask me that all the time, and try to embrace and all of that stuff. Because, I knew she was going to die, and I knew she was dying, and you still, no.
Aren't there the stages? Come on, give me the stages.
That's after.
Oh, that's after. Okay,
no
preparing for the grief?
No.
I can't work out and get ready for this.
just try to be with him and, all that.
Okay, but give me the grief now.
What is it?
Give into it.
Oh, what does it mean to give into it?
Give into it. What does that mean?
Well, when people, what it means. Okay, so for example, in this culture especially, and I talked specifically about that therapist that I saw because he was, I think, Greek. He was definitely of Mediterranean descent and very connected to his roots. And he said to me, because I was like, this can't just be grief. When I went to see him after about 8 months, and my head was so foggy, and I was just a mess. And he said, no, it is. That is exactly what it is. And he said, in this culture, we don't give it its due.
Grief.
We take a couple weeks off, days, and we're back at work. And people are like, oh yeah, it's too bad. Next, and
like next thing.
Like just move on. Like, are you still dealing with that? Like 3 months later. I mean, I had people say to me, like 6 months in or whatever, like, oh, you're still like Of course, I cut those people off, but because I'm like that. But yeah,
That's the Newark in you.
Yeah, right, it can come out.
I know. Go ahead. I'm sorry. It
But
never leaves.
it never leaves. But we should do some. I don't want to talk about that.
That's a whole other thing.
There's a whole other. Yeah, it's a whole show. But anyway, so you have to get. What I mean is, in a year, 2 years down the road, when when you're still feeling like crap, it's okay. It's okay to say that, you know, and it'll come in waves. Like one day you'll be fine, and the next day you're not, and that's okay to say, you know what, I don't feel like it. You know, I'm feeling sad today. I'm missing my, you know.
Well, you know what's so interesting about that? You also talk the strong black woman thing, right? So, devil's advocate. So,
I want to put her to bed.
Go ahead. Put her to bed.
I want to put that.
Put her to bed.
I want to put that whole notion to bed, because that's killing us too. You know.
Killing?
Killing.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
High blood pressure, diabetes, obesity. So what do we do with our feelings? What do we do with having like 9 million things to do? We stuff it. We stuff it. We stuff it down. And we stuff it down with food. We stuff it down with alcohol. We stuff it down with shopping. We stuff it down with socializing. You know. And
Socializing.
Socializing. You know people who, and this is not unique to black women, you know people who, like, they're out every single night. And I'm not talking about work stuff. I'm talking about, you know, dinner parties, galas, that stuff.
In order to not do what?
That's right. Not hear it. Not hear the voice. Not hear that voice that's
Not
saying,
feel
you
it,
know,
not deal with it?
I'm in pain. Not to hear it. Not to deal with it. And it doesn't go away just because you do all of that stuff.
Activity.
It goes down.
Some of the other lessons from this book, and again, you've said that your experience. But go ahead, go back to the Newark thing. I have to do this because I'm convinced. I use this as an excuse or an explanation for an awful lot of things in the way I handle myself in certain situations. And I will use a horrible expression, and I know that you will appreciate it. I will say, and I know for the crew around here, for our great team behind here, and some of the people I deal with, I will literally say, I said I went Newark on them. And it's acting in a certain way that is just not appropriate.
Sometimes.
And I know you know what I mean.
Yeah, but here's...
What does it mean?
It means going OFF sometimes, like, you know, like I'm not taking this, you know, like, no, you can't talk to me like that, you can't step to me like that, it's not okay.
Or even that's not even happening, or how about it's worse than that? You think someone may even be thinking that they could do it, and you do it first.
Right,
I'm sorry, I'm going to a bad place.
Yeah, you are.
I'm sorry.
But here, let's flip that around, though, because I think, and one of the things that I got out of the book afterwards is when I was talking about the community from which I came,
yes,
how much I miss a sense of community.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But you're part of a community.
Yeah, but it's different. It's different. First of all, it's not black. At all.
Whoa. Hold on. I grew up, you know where I grew up. I grew up in an Italian-American neighborhood. Yeah. And where I grew up, we live in hold on.
What?
We live in a diverse, integrated community, which we chose to live in.
We do. Listen, I'm not going to start naming other towns. I think Montclair is as good as it gets in terms of
Same
suburbs.
Here.
Absolutely. But it's still not, you know.
Community means like?
Well, what I mean about missing that is having, you know, Miss Mabel down the street, having Aunt Margaret across the street, having Miss Earlene next door. My kids don't have that.
That's fair.
And that's what I mean about community. Community, no, it wasn't like everybody was black, but everybody was not alike. I mean, you had Miss Jackie down the street who was, we didn't use lesbian at the time, but she was, and she was totally folded into the fabric of the neighborhood.
Ethnically or racially?
I'm saying...
Similar?
Yes.
That matters?
Yes.
To you?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I didn't realize how much it did.
Yeah, because you also talk about how your daughter had a lot of white friends.
Both of my kids have. Yeah. My son has pretty much only white friends.
Does that bother you?
In Montclair. It used to. Now, you know, we watch Blackish. That's sort of the thing we do together. That is my life. Ford is Junior. And but what that does is it opens up a conversation about race that is easy for him to have. That doesn't feel like I'm lecturing him. And so, You know, there was one show where the Junior didn't have any black friends, and the parents were like, okay, he needs to have some black friends, and he looks at me and he goes, but he'll say to me when he was younger, Mom, I know I'm black. Like, you don't need to like find friends for me. I'm good. And when I see him navigating, I'm so proud of him. And again, he's a Montclair kid, you know. He has different kinds of friends. And even like all of his white boyfriends, pals, are all socioeconomically different, you know, ethnically different. And Ford likes who he likes.
A lot going on in this
And I
book.
like that about him.
By the way, it's a couple minutes to black. You like that? Which means the end of the show. You more comfortable with that? Like that expression?
Yeah,
Listen, because this book is not all about depression. It's about so many things.
Yeah.
Final thing you want to say to folks, because I want people to go out and get this.
Yes, go ahead and buy it.
Do you mind if I plug?
It's also, yeah, I really mind. It's also funny, and it's also...
it is funny.
Yeah, I think it's funny, and I think, you know, I'm teaching a memoir class, and I love all these stories that these people are bringing. So I hope that my story inspires other people, you know, not just to buy my book, but to, you know.
You want to inspire people.
Yeah.
To do?
To live, and I mean, at the risk of sounding like Oprah, to live in their truth. I mean, to really to figure out what that thing is that really turns them on, and to live that, and embrace all of our monsters. You know, to embrace it, because when you don't, then you get sick and you're miserable and you make other people.
You don't have to ask you what's next.
Oh God, don't ask me that.
I'm not going to ask you.
Yeah.
My producers want me to ask you. I'm not going to ask you.
Maybe another novel. I don't know.
Maybe another novel. I don't know.
I'm working on another novel, but.
You going back to yoga class?
I do. I still do
yoga.
Still do it? Yeah. The question is, I'm going back to, you know, hardcore.
Hardcore, yeah, that's hardcore. You do a hardcore exercise. Listen, I've enjoyed having you.
Thanks for having me. It goes by so fast.
I know. That's a full half hour. That's a big deal for us, but only for the best guests. And I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, sweetie.
I know you helped a lot of people.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Partners for Health Foundation, Berkeley College, Josh S. Weston, Meridian Health, PSE&G, Health Republic Insurance of New Jersey, and by Cone Resnick. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
I started feeling this pressure in my chest.
The doctors and the nurses that were attending to me, that they were of such excellence.
They were wonderful. You know, they put my mind at ease.
I owe my life to them. I don't think I really would be here if it wasn't for them.
Because of the way they handled everything, I think that's really why I'm here.
I felt that I was in good hands.